you must realize that this is an evolving pandemic. We have seen mutations across the world. We have seen mutation during the second wave ourselves. So we should not get into any complacent mode. We are vaccinating. We have to observe COVID appropriate behavior. We are hoping that a drug to cure this disease also gets discovered and proves itself very soon. So therefore, nobody can predict the future. But yes, I am sure that we have the capability of facing any eventuality now. So I would not like to say that when it will become endemic. Yes, it has to become endemic. After all, that's how the pandemics or epidemics actually, that is the route that they take. However, when is not for us to answer. For us, it's important that we observe COVID appropriate behavior.
If we see on January 16, we started the vaccine shots for frontline and the healthcare workers. And today, in the month of October, we are 100 crore. What are the lessons that you draw, and how significant is this achievement that we have achieved? In fact, countries don't have population, the vaccination that we have done.
So Ayushman, actually it has taken us 9 months to deliver our 1 billion vaccine baby. I just want to say that I feel very fortunate and grateful that I'm born in India. You know, in a country where the political executive, led by the Prime Minister himself, is tackling COVID. Then country as a whole, despite our diversity, our political differences, you know, we are together. Otherwise, like this goal could not have been achieved, you see, in such a short time. I'm also grateful to all the researchers, doctors, nurses, our scientists, lab assistants, the health workers, the frontline workers who have made it possible. And you just imagine how much effort the states and the government of India has put in. You see, even one small gap, say the vaccine reached, but the cold chain was not maintained. Or about more than 2.6 lakh vaccination centers are set up. So if the nurse or the ANM was not there, or the syringe was not available. So there even a small gap, the whole process is extremely complicated. So understanding, and look at our diversity, look at our difficult areas that we have, look at our topography, look at our difficult regions. So therefore, I would say this whole of government approach, whole of society approach, and the very fact that from vaccine hesitancy we have come now to a stage where there's vaccine demand, that itself shows that the Indian public, the Indian polity, I would say the bureaucracy, the scientific bodies and doctors, everybody has got together. So this is a day to be very grateful.
The entire nation, because this achievement and this endeavor, this mission is a national mission. It is the people of India and the scientific community, the industry, the healthcare workers in particular, the healthcare teams and the vaccination teams. It is the achievement. It is an achievement that goes to the credit of the entire nation. And also in particular, the nation is grateful to the Honorable Prime Minister, who has led the pandemic response from the front, guiding us all the way, and also blessed and mentored the vaccination program from ensuring that the candidate vaccines reach the stage of product and their scale up. So it's a big day for India, and it makes us, all of us as Indians, very, very proud.
Dr. V.K. Paul, how do you think it is going to change the course of the pandemic in the country? Because this is still ongoing, but achieving this, the 100 crore vaccination, how is this going to change the whole situation?
So what we have achieved is that 75% of India's adult population has received at least one dose. 30% have received 2 doses. Now, with this kind of a coverage of vaccination, it would mean that for practical purposes, the 3/4 of adult population is immune against severe COVID-19 disease and immune for mortality. Of course, it'll be even better, much better if the second dose coverage also reaches there. But even with first dose, we know that the protection is huge. And also, this level of herd immunity will potentially retard the spread of the virus, should the virus again have a tendency to upsurge. So it is a shield against the pandemic in a very big way in terms of its spread, but even more importantly, against the worst effects and the worrying effects of the pandemic, which is severe disease and mortality. So we should feel protected. But remember, both doses have to be given. One dose is not enough. Those who have not received the second dose, and there is overdue second dose in about 10 crore people, 10 crore adults, they should take the second dose.
मैं कब से तुम्हारी फेवरेट बन गई? क्या चाहिए तुम्हें करण?
कुछ पाने के लिए ही तो करीना, क्योंकि ये है गिफ्टिंग का महीना. Season of gifting is live on Tata Click. Download the app now.
आज Mr. Shekhawat called me himself.
I want you to join our secret keychain club. जिसकी चाबी जिसके पास, उसकी रात उसके साथ. अपनी बीवी से पूछो अगर वो तुम्हारा राज बनना चाहती है.
मैंने अपने लाइफ में कितने फेलियर्स देखे, but now I want to taste success at any cost.
I can't believe it, अजय. करण, अपनी नई फिल्म में तुमने किसी और को लिया, पर मैंने तुम्हें माफ किया.
I know why you're being nice, करीना, क्योंकि ये है गिफ्टिंग का महीना. Season of gifting is live on Tata Click. Download the app now.
Good evening and good to have you with us in the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. We are continuing with our special 2-hour broadcast here on all things COVID, specifically the vaccination itself. Now, the celebrations were held across the day, congratulatory messages, gratitude that was expressed for all of those who enabled India to reach this point where 100 crore vaccine doses have been administered in our country. For any other country, this is a big, big number. But because of the sheer size of our own country and the sheer population that we have, we still have a long way to go. So our job doesn't end here and the challenge doesn't go away. We can pause for a minute, pat our backs, smile for a bit, then look ahead and say, okay, what's next? We cannot let our guard down. 70% of the population is yet to be fully jabbed, and the COVID itself hasn't gone away. So these are some of the things that we have to keep in mind, that even as we speak, 70% of the population is yet to be fully jabbed. That's double vaccinated. We are already during the festival season witnessing laxity and complacency, and also because the cases are reducing. So we're obviously by default becoming a lot more complacent about the whole situation, which isn't good, because you may be double vaccinated, but you still have to wear your mask. There is really no way out of it. You can still get infected. While there are vaccines, one vaccine that's been approved for ages 12 and above, the other one that's been approved for age 2 and more above, we are yet to get clarity on when these vaccines will be available for children, how will we proceed, what will be the order of priority as far as the children are concerned. Children are yet to be vaccinated. That's a big part of what lies ahead for us. Then there are also some concerns about breakthrough infections. Again, it ties back to the point that I was making. You may have got both your vaccine shots, but you could still get infected. It lowers the chance of fatality. It doesn't mean that you're completely immune to the infection and the virus itself. Which brings us to the other point, that of the booster shot. Will we need booster shots? At what point can we start giving it to the people who've completed 2 doses a long time ago, at a time when we still have a lot of people in our country who are yet to get their first dose. So yes, while 100 crore jabs is no small feat to achieve, we still have a lot more things to look at, and that's what we are going to talk about here tonight. The big questions for me: will all eligible population be jabbed by December as was intended? Are we really on track for that, and what will that mean? When will the vaccine for children be available? How long does the effect of a vaccine shot really stay? Do we know a lot more about that today than we did, say, about a year ago when the vaccines first hit the market? Will Indians need vaccine booster shots? What about the poor performing states where they've only about touched 25% of their population, which is fully vaccinated? What can we do to ramp up vaccination there? Because remember, we don't live in isolation despite all the COVID norms. We have now opened up, we still travel. There's a lot of interstate movement that takes place. So even if one part of the country is done great and the other is yet to get there, that has to be kept in mind. For all of my questions and more, I have the experts who will give us the answers. Dr. Virendra Singh Chauhan, Emeritus Professor for International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology. Professor Gautam Menon, Professor in the Department of Physics and Biology at Ashoka University. Dr. Rajiv Jaidevan, Scientific Advisor for IMA and Vice Chairman of the Kerala IMA Research Wing. Dr. M.C. Mishra, former Director for AIIMS, with me this evening. And I must say, it's been quite a while since I had all of you for a conversation, but today I thought was a good day to do a status check and talk about what we need to look at going forward from here. Let's start with you, Dr. Chauhan.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Can you hear?
Yes.
So I think you laid it out already, the key question that we will have to address. But yes, let's take a deep breath and enjoy the moment. We were looking forward to this day, that 1 billion shot. What to me is even more important, that the 90% of these vaccines have come from the world's largest producer, which produces very high quality, internationally accepted vaccines. So not only that you vaccinated with 1 billion people, you vaccinated with very high quality vaccines. The reason why I say that there are reports now, I don't need to name them, but some other vaccines which have been rolled out in many countries turned out to be not as effective as they were supposed to be. So it's a very good starting point. I would say this landmark is truly a landmark, and I think the previous Secretary V.K. Paul and others have already alluded to that. I would consider this as a starting point, and this is when we should not let our guards drop. This is when the extra vigor of vaccination, as you said, we need to vaccinate. And I just want to correct that. There's no 70% of Indian population has been vaccinated. It is 70% of the eligible
population,
vaccinated. So you rightly said, I think these questions, if not today, tomorrow will come up. Booster shots, vaccination children, how do we open our schools? How do we start opening our university in physical form? Will be very, but I want to really enjoy this moment. We're looking forward to this for a very long time. I'll just say this, that vaccine producing is not easy, is difficult. They have to produce really good quality, but taking them, distributing them, putting in people's arms, I think I want to remember, and I think remind all the viewers that people who got involved in actually putting these vaccines in people's arms, roughly about 50 lakhs a day. It could go to 60 lakhs a day now. This is a remarkable feat. And I think all of us should have a reason to feel proud of it. Going forward till December, if we continue at the pace as we are, that is, if all the supply gets put into people's arms, we would have covered another 30 crores. And will that be sufficient? Will the booster shots discussion will come in? Will there be hesitancy? I want to just summarize this by saying that the hesitancy that might have been there initially, I don't see that hesitancy anymore. As Preeti said earlier, that there's a demand for vaccine, and that's great news for India. What happens to the pandemic now? As you say, pandemic is very much there. The virus is very much there. I think we need to be very careful. If we can run through Diwali festival and we can run through this winter, I think we'll be in very relatively comfortable space. We would have vaccinated 130, 140 crores, and that's a good going.
Okay, interesting. Then thank you for that. So let's pick it up from there. And one larger question actually that most people would want to know about is how soon can we return to a slightly more normal, stable environment? Professor Gautam Menon, good evening to you. Every time I have a conversation with somebody from the business arena, and they say, well, we are looking forward towards December, because December onwards, they believe all their problems are going to go away. They can start, planning the business opening, expansion, getting everybody back to the offices. Basis the data that we have, not just about how many have been vaccinated and where, but zero prevalence and so on and so forth. Will it be right to start planning and hoping that December onwards, life can change a bit?
I think it's probably okay to plan for even a time a little before that. I think certainly schools should be opening now. We've kept schools closed for far too long, and there's certainly no case for keeping them closed to children from now on. I think that people can go back to work, provided they maintain all of the sensible restrictions that they used to. For example, mask wearing, reducing crowding, and improving ventilation. These are the three most strong public health measures that we do know currently to deal with COVID-19. So as long as people behave in an appropriate way, appropriate for COVID-19, given the fact that we've already suffered through a very extensive second wave in which a large fraction of India has already been infected, we've now have jabs in 70% odd of Indian arms, either with 2 doses or with 1 dose. This is probably the time to consider opening up. And I think if we do it sensibly, we will not suffer consequences.
But when you say provided we follow the COVID protocols, I can confidently say a large majority percentage of our population does not follow those norms, Professor Menon.
I think you do see a fair amount of mask wearing, and certainly it's not, mask wearing is not a very oppressive way of dealing with daily life. We're all getting used to it now. But we should pay more attention to ventilation wherever we can, opening windows, having meetings outside. These are the small things that we can do that can make a huge difference.
Okay, fair enough. Let me bring in Dr. Rajeev Jayadevan as well on this. Dr. Jayadevan, again, various regions may be at different points. For example, in a city like Mumbai, where 97% of the people have got at least 1 shot, or even smaller cities like Chandigarh, Ahmedabad, where they've pretty much everybody's got 1 shot. But there are also other cities where, like Chennai, where they've not even reached 80%. So different cities have a different coverage right now. But in a sense, can we begin to look at norms where it's not just restricted to double vaccinated, whether it's flying purposes or entering mall purposes or going to a theatre purpose? I think most people really want to know how soon can we start doing all of these things easily?
Yes, that's an excellent question as to what we can do with people who have received just 1 dose. Now, let me explain this. Someone who got 1 dose back in January or February is not considered in the same sitting as someone who got 1 dose now, because in between we had a massive wave of Delta variant, which infected crores of people in our country, which means that a person who's getting 1 dose now in October is essentially getting a booster jab. In other words, there is a concept that is coming in which is called hybrid immunity. Hybrid immunity basically means if you vaccinate someone who had prior natural infection, and that, it appears, it produces not only a greater level of antibodies, but it also produces a greater diversity of antibodies, which could be useful to attack or prevent future variants. So that is a direction in which we could be moving forward in. We might see a time where one vaccine dose in someone who was previously infected would be considered fully vaccinated. So I'm just stating this ahead of time. So that is, again, in answering your question about single dose vaccinated individuals. The second point is I would like to start where Professor Gautam Menon left off. If COVID, the pandemic management is a table with 4 legs. Vaccination is just one leg. If you just rely on one leg, the table will collapse. Yes, as you rightly said, the biggest second leg is ventilation. Right now, I'm sitting in a closed room. No, we need open spaces. People should not be gathering in closed spaces. If they wish to meet up, they can meet up outdoors. It must become a habit. And the same thing when we open schools. In fact, I was talking with a large group, about 500 people who are educators today. And I told them, look, we need to start thinking in terms of open spaces. I know it sounds weird, but we have to start thinking in those directions. And the third and the fourth leg would be mask wearing and proper social distancing norms. And unless these 4 norms are kept, we will not be able to achieve control on the pandemic. Agreed, there will be ups and downs. If there's a natural down phase, we may become complacent, as you rightly pointed out in your intro. Yes, complacency is a problem, but we must educate individuals that the pandemic has not gone away and we need to be in here for the long haul.
Okay, it's an important point that you're making about open spaces, and I don't think that gets spoken about enough. Very, very difficult to imagine in cities like Mumbai. We have no open spaces left at all, but it was very difficult for us to even imagine social isolation beyond a couple of days 18 months ago, and we somehow managed it for months together. So I don't know. Possibly we will have to look at it and figure out how we can do it at some point. Dr. Mishra, good evening to you. What should our strategy be for, areas and regions, especially in rural areas where we still haven't covered a large part? States like Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, large size population, where right now, as data shows, only 25 to 28% have been fully jabbed.
Tanvi, thank you so much for putting up this discussion this evening. Let me first congratulate each citizen of this country. The Government of India, under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, state governments have done, lakhs of healthcare workers have done commendable work. And above all, Serum Institute came to the occasion and delivered those doses which were much needed. And we all know what has gone through since January, when first time the vaccines were launched. The skeptics, the negativism, people were spreading. Some politicians would say, I will not get this party's vaccine. And all that led to hesitancy. But naturally now we have crossed 100 crore mark. So that means that hesitancy is not there that much as it was in the beginning. And that is why we are here where we are. And we must be proud of this moment. Our scientists, both Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute, needs congratulations. And they have done well actually for the country. And they will do well for the world also in coming times, because it's not that we can control and others will still have infections, so we will not be safe. So that is another aspect which needs to be looked at. Now, if you look at complacency, yes, what I am saying now, in North India, the winter has set in. The smog is setting in. So put on mask for at least pollution, if not for COVID. And we have seen that over last 18 months, the other communicable diseases have also come down. Tuberculosis has come down by 40%. So it has collateral benefits by putting on mask, and consider mask as if you have not put on a shirt when you go out of your home. Even today, at workplaces, at shopping areas and all that. And this is something what people say China has given. We don't know how much they have given. There's no hard data, no credible data from China. Their vaccines are inferior to Indian vaccines or the vaccines which we are manufacturing. So we must not have any doubt that. And then we saw what UK did, quarantine, and then we strongly responded to that and saying the tit for tat must be there. They cannot play politics with all this when there is science behind it. So I think we have gone through enormous problems in the past. The second wave protecting us even now, and also vaccination is adding to that. So it's a huge thing. Now for children, they were not very much affected. 10% average you take in both first wave and second wave. We should protect them for ourselves, for adults basically. I think that is something which will start happening, and more doses, more variety of doses, different doses will be available in coming times.
Okay.
Even DNA vaccine, our own RNA vaccine will be, I'm sure, available in coming months. So if we keep getting the doses which have been now 28 crores, I think in October, which I was looking at, and October is still, we are 9 days or 10 days is still ahead. So we will achieve what we are supposed to achieve. But what I would say that we should not worry too much about booster at this point of time. Let's first consolidate what we have been doing. So because booster might not be needed, and those who were infected in second wave, they may not get it, they may not voluntarily take the second dose. That one dose is enough for those. That science is available from January itself. France made this policy in the very beginning. Those who suffered with COVID, they were given only one vaccine dose. So that is something which I would say that we should not stop here. Rather, it's a newer challenge we will have, and that is to how to open up. I traveled first.
So, Dr. Mishra, let's you've raised a couple of points which I wanted to get into the details. So I'm going to pick them up one by one. And go across the panel. Dr. Chauhan, do you believe that we don't need to get into the conversation about booster dose in India right now? And I am not getting into it from a moral, ethical perspective to say, okay, a large percentage of the world is yet to get one shot, so we shouldn't. I'm simply asking from the point of view of people who are wondering that if I got my second shot last summer, do I need to start thinking about a booster now?
So let me clarify a couple of things here. There seems to be some confusion about what the data is beginning to come out and how do you roll it out in a policy. Now, when you want to roll out what is beginning to come out from scientific data, it's very difficult. You can't roll out in policy tomorrow. The data comes today. So the super immunity of people who have been exposed to, and then they get one shot of any of the vaccine. Actually, trials have been done only with a couple of vaccines. And extending them to all of the vaccines, I think right now will be hasty. And therefore, it cannot get into the policy matter. This will be too hasty. The other point, which is very important, is to boost or not to boost is a scientific issue. Is it a moral issue or is it an ethical issue? If the WHO in August gave a moratorium that we should not give booster dose anywhere until Africa, which has not even touched 5% of vaccination, at least we distribute the vaccine. Within a week time, America started doing the booster doses. UK now advised booster doses for all people within the 6 to 9 months. So if you want to follow science, then I think science is there to indicate to you. How should a policymaker in India go? Should we vaccinate those who have not been vaccinated at all? Or should we look at the booster doses? I think this is what policymakers will have to really figure out. Remember, we just have 2 vaccines. 90% of all vaccines in India, no matter, personally, I'm extremely puzzled and surprised that the 2 recombinant-based vaccine from Biological Evans and from Serum, which would have produced Novavax vaccine, have still not come. We were hoping they'll come by end of August or definitely in September. Almost October has gone. And to say that this will be available, that will be available, we have to be very cautious. Because getting vaccine to say is approved, then to produce it at scale, then to put in people arms, it takes months of the time. So if the recombinant vaccines in India become available by end of the year, I can tell you India would be sitting very pretty. Not only we'll vaccinate, all those need to be vaccinated. I think we will have surplus vaccines by January. But condition is this, that other vaccines which we had slated or scheduled to have been produced or approved should be on the slate. You can see Moderna, Pfizer will be so much in demand in the West because the children will be vaccinated by Moderna and Pfizer. Children will not be vaccinated by the vaccine that you and I are discussing, not yet. So I think it is going to be a moving target. those of us who are making this assumption that this will happen, that happen, I think we need to slow down. But booster would be.
But like you said, Dr. Chauhan, and I want to point this out right now to our viewers as well, is because today we got an alert and an announcement from Pfizer BioNTech saying that their third dose has shown an efficacy of 95% odd. So clearly in many other countries, this is being taken very seriously and strategies are being designed around it. Is there data available to show that it's required?
If I'm a policy, I'll just vaccinate more and more people as quickly as possible, rather than taking other parallel questions. Should we boost or should we not boost?
Okay.
Should we boost or not boost is a European problem right now. In India, if I were the policymaker advisor, I'd say, please immunize as many people as quickly as you can, so that more and more people are protected from severe disease, hospitalization, and from death. That has to be our first priority.
Okay. Yes, and I appreciate the fact that you're also, you're speaking from a point of view of what a policy maker needs to do in our country, and each country has its own set of challenges, and we need to be very cognizant of what we're dealing with. Professor Menon, would you want to weigh in on this?
No, I agree completely that I think our priority should be to vaccinate the people who have not been vaccinated yet. Remember that 25% of the eligible population of 950 million or 960 million have not had no dose at all.
Yeah.
That's a large number. 25% of 950 million is a very large number in absolute terms. So it makes the most sense to try and target them first. Other types of conditions that predispose them to adverse outcomes, maybe prioritize them first rather than rolling it out across the population. But that's a later discussion to have. It's really the priority should be now to address the 25% who've had no shot at all.
Okay, before I go on to the conversation of children, and because that obviously is one of the big talking points these days, there is one other aspect, and that is the aspect of the hope of a COVID drug. How far along are we in that, and again, some of the experts did indicate that we are hoping one will be out soon. Dr. Jayadevan, is that something that is in the horizon within the next 6 months, or could it take longer?
Yes, what will truly be a game changer will be a tablet that you can pop as soon as you think you got exposed to the virus or if you're tested positive. I wish such a medicine was available a long time ago. Unfortunately, it has not been available in spite of so many antivirals having been manufactured over the years. Now, there is one drug, as most people may have heard of, called Molnupiravir, which is made by Merck. It's been around for a long time, but the trial for COVID-19 was done later in August, and the results of that particular trial show an absolute risk reduction of around 7.5%, which basically in plain English means that if you take the drug, you're less likely to be hospitalized. Now, there's just one trial, and the couple of challenges that lie ahead are A, can this drug be used on its own? Because viruses are smart organisms. If you use a single agent, there is a theoretical possibility that this virus could rapidly become resistant. I know there's an opposing view as well, but we've seen that with HIV. HIV could not be conquered until we were able to produce the right number of drugs in the right cocktail. That's one. That's speculation. 2 more drugs are expected to be out of trials very soon by large companies, and I'm hopeful that at least one of them or 2 will be available as antiviral agents, which will be absolutely a game changer if it truly happens. And I'll add a little bit about the discussion earlier about boosters. I think our viewers should understand that a third dose, all that it does is it temporarily increases your antibody levels. And antibody levels is not the same as prevention of deaths. It's different. 2 encounters are needed for this particular virus to prevent severe disease and deaths. 2 encounters, which means 2 doses of vaccine, or 1 exposure to infection and 1 dose of vaccine. Any of these will give you adequate number of memory cells, which will last you a lifetime. A jab will give you antibodies that will last you about 3 months. After that, it will come down. During the umbrella of antibody spike, you will be protected from virus getting in. That's all. It does not, I repeat, it does not have any effect on long-term survival or death rate. It's speculative, but the Western nations are doing this based on their own situation, where they're facing a large surge of winter-related infections and to some extent some political pressures. So India does not need boosters, except, as Dr. Menon said, in certain subgroups who are immunosuppressed, who may not respond to 2 doses, 3 doses will be required.
Okay, so then what explains this, large number of cases, deaths actually, cases of course, experts keep telling us will happen even if you've been doubly vaccinated. But in the West, what explains the fact that this concern still continues? Not just in West. Today, we had some very concerning news even from Russia, where they've logged in a single 24-hour window over 1,000 people dying. So, Dr. Virendra Chauhan, if the assumption is that the double shot stops or reduces the chances of fatality, are we now looking at possibility where we need more data to prove that?
So the earlier data which came out in July and August looked much more promising than when the larger data is being available. So earlier, we thought as much as 60%, even protection from multiplying the virus to large levels so that you get infected. But the later data, which now is available in October, late September, October, suggests that vaccines are really not as good as we thought. Although the vaccine never claimed that. I must clarify, vaccines never claimed that they will protect you from not getting infection and not spreading. But the earlier data were looking very promising. We begin to say that if you get 2 vaccine shots, then the chances of you getting virus or multiplying it large amount will be much less. It's not as exciting as before. I think vaccines, 2 shots still protect you to a large extent from getting infection, at least getting a fierce infection. So I would look at, you said Russia. Russia vaccine uptake, although they were the very first one to put Sputnik in people's arm, is only 30%. Only 40 million people in Russia really have been vaccinated. And when you start looking at country by country, the situation becomes so complex. When UK, about a month back, was already showing 30,000 cases a day after 80% of vaccination, India was showing only 25,000 without not having adequate vaccination. So vaccine and infection or spread, unfortunately, are not directly proportional. They are many, many more complex because other complexities, the Delta virus showing up, the vaccines are really created against Wuhan virus. Will they be compromised or not? Broadly, I would say the vaccines are still protecting against all viruses. We have had mu virus or Kappa virus or gamma virus after, but none as threatening as Delta. I just want to give this to the viewer information. The Delta, which must have arisen sometime in January, February, swept India and rest of the world now is a dominant. Virus hasn't been able to find something stronger than Delta. Doesn't mean it won't find it. I'm not saying that, but the chances are the virus would also run out of producing more and more infectious forms of it. It seems to me now that the virus will stabilize. I could be wrong. I could be famously wrong scientifically. But from February till October, virus has multiplied so much in so many locations, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Russia. We haven't found the forms which are more deadly. So that gives us some little hope that by next summer, you would see petering off. And what we have already said, that the virus, this infection might become endemic rather than remain pandemic. And I'm hoping that. But please, let's get vaccinated as many. Let the society come together. Let the vaccine producer come together and march on from 100 crore to 150 crore.
Okay.
And 150 crore to 200 crores.
Okay. I would say that since you highlighted so many complications and nuances and layers, which I think only experts would actually understand fully and deeply and appreciate it. For a lot of us laymen, it just has to be get your shot, get a second shot, wear your mask and try and maintain distance as much as you can. That's all that we can hope for at this point of time. But there is one other aspect, and that is the aspect about children, where we haven't started our vaccination drive. Dr. Mishra, and even though approvals have begun to come in, internationally they've begun to vaccinate children, there is still a debate going on whether children need it or don't need it, and if we should proceed with it. Our own government is yet to come out with guidelines of how they want to proceed with it, even though 2 vaccines have the approvals. What is your view, Dr. Mishra?
Yeah, before Tanvi coming to children, I would say, why are we not getting any information on the genomic sequencing from Kerala? Because Kerala is reeling under infections since July, and we have not heard what kind of variants they are having, so that is not coming down. Or if it has come down, it has come down marginally. So that is, for me, that's more worrying, because in case there is a surge or third wave, so-called third wave, somewhere in some form, we do not know yet why are they not disclosing that, because I spoke to people in NCDC, they said they are not sharing the data. So genomic sequencing, I think we should put pressure on government of Kerala to at least disclose and tell people, announce that what kind of variants they are getting in Kerala. Of course, the children, if you look at Tanvi through first wave,
so since you've raised that issue, Dr. Mishra, if you will allow me, since you've raised the aspect of Kerala, let's just first address that part. The fact that yes, when the cases consistently were high in Kerala for several weeks, and we had rounds of multiple conversations on it, many experts said it's because they had very low seroprevalence, because Kerala kind of clamped down so strongly in the initial months that it's only now that more people are getting infected, and they have a larger percentage of the population which is vulnerable. We are still seeing, and I'm looking at a report from Times of India dated just last week, October 13, that says about 1/4 of the daily new cases in Kerala are now breakthrough infections. So we are actually saying 25 to 27% are now breakthrough infections. Does that, Dr. Jayadevan, change the argument then? And does that then not, demand a deeper scrutiny as to maybe what strain is it and what is going on?
Breakthrough infections, for our viewers, are basically infections that happen in someone who's been fully vaccinated. Now, Kerala's vaccination stands at 94% of adult population. And so a substantial number have been vaccinated, and data gathering is good and reporting is good. And therefore, I think the figures that you said are about 25-30% are breakthrough infections. That's only to be expected because a large number of adults are in fact vaccinated. Now, breakthrough infections are not necessarily bad news in one sense, because as was pointed out by the panel, all these people are not necessarily going to get sick. They may be diagnosed because they were tested, or because they are mildly symptomatic, or they were contacts of individuals that had infection. Now, breakthrough infections are a theme around the world in all developed nations who've had massive vaccination percentages. Yes, as the antibody levels drop after about 2 or 3 months after the injection, the virus is able to get past the natural defenses and infect the nose and throat. For the most part, these infections occur in the nose and throat. As far as genomic sequencing from Kerala, Kerala has active genomic surveillance, which is publicly, it's available in public domain. It is actually Delta. We know that there are around 55 sublineages of Delta, and AY4 and AY12 are gaining worldwide attention. In Kerala, AY4, again, I repeat, this is not a variation from Delta. It is a sublineage of Delta. Basically, it is basically Delta, which is basically sublineaging into around 55 different forms, which is a natural progression of the virus. This, I repeat, is not a dangerous mutation, but AY4 is gaining a little bit of prominence, and this has been diagnosed and detected in Kerala and reported. And the same trend is also seen in Britain, and AY and other AY sublineages are also being reported. In other words, in plain English, it says that there is no new variant in Kerala that has been discovered in spite of active surveillance.
So Professor Menon, then, to the point that Dr. Mishra is raising here, what explains the high level of cases continuously coming from Kerala?
They've actually decreased. They were at a level of 20,000 to 30,000 plus about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Now they're a little above 10,000. Test positivity has gone down from numbers close to 20% to about 10%. As you pointed out, it's really a consequence of the fact that Kerala did well in the previous waves. Relatively few people were infected. The funny thing about Delta is that once Delta gets loose in the population, it's very hard not to catch it. It's just extremely transmissible. And I think that will be the end game of Delta in the country, that, if you can catch it before you're vaccinated, or you can catch it after you're vaccinated. And the best idea is to catch it after you're vaccinated. And that's really the best advice that I have, what my impression of what's happening in Kerala.
Okay. All right. Dr. Mishra, back to you if you want to add here, and then we can move on to the conversation and your views on vaccination for children.
Yeah, I think vaccination for children would be available. Whether people will go for it as seriously as the adults are going, that we'll have to see that time. But vaccines will be available for children, as it has been already Covaxin. But Covaxin has a challenge on their hands. So whether they can produce the kind of doses required for children and also adults, because it's a good vaccine. So even given the choice, many people will want this vaccine to be inoculated, even as a booster. Whatever time we have this booster at 1 year, or maybe repeat like influenza vaccine at 1 year, we get this vaccine, because for COVID, I think we'll have to get ourselves vaccinated maybe yearly if the immunity lasts for that long. We yet don't know, because the answers to these questions are not yet available to us. And that is why there are all these speculations that booster at 6 months, or the USA and Europe are talking of booster. So that is where, because the answers are not yet available. The hard data is not yet available that how long actually the immunity lasts. The memory cells would last life. Some studies have shown that. But like influenza, I consider that it has become already endemic, and the virus would be around us for times to come. And like influenza, it never occurred to me to get jab for influenza, but for COVID, I am sure that I am going to get regular vaccination yearly or 9 monthly, whichever timing the scientists decide to tell us that you need to repeat the dose, whether at 1 year or at 9 months, or 2 doses or 1 dose, because there are still, the work is on. We don't have the last answers on vaccines, because it's only less than a year all the vaccines have been in use, and if they have done some good, I think that is what we want.
Okay. You've also made a very interesting point that I want to highlight and emphasize, which is Covaxin, which is what everybody is looking towards as vaccine for children, is any which ways even now struggling to ramp up its production. It's not gotten where it wanted to. They're hoping to hit that 70 to 80 million a month by the end of this year. So yes, that challenge will remain as to where we want it to be funneled and who should get that vaccine first. But Dr. Jayadevan, what is your view as far as vaccine for children is concerned? Obviously, the biggest question that all parents have, especially now since schools have begun to reopen.
Well, there is a saying that says, if you don't know where you're going, it's unlikely you'll reach your destination. It's very profound. It's funny, but it's actually a very profound statement. When we talk about vaccination of children, we need to be very clear what our goals are. What could our goals be? A, to stop deaths. B, to stop infection. Now, we know that vaccines are excellent at stopping deaths, but then children do not need that protection, because children have a natural innate immunity. Innate basically means the first level of immunity is so strong that they're able to thwart the virus as soon as the virus gets in. So that argument does not hold. The second argument is, can these vaccines provide adequate protection long term to prevent infections in a crowded classroom? I do not believe so, because vaccines that had about 90% protection against infection when they started in January have come down to 3% now down in October. Now, that is not taking away the fact that, as was mentioned, vaccines are excellent at stopping severe disease. So back to the children, I do not believe that there is an urgent need to vaccinate healthy children. But the exception here is there are some children who have certain conditions that predispose them or make them more likely to develop complications. And these children must be prioritized. And then there are some children who live with individuals who are at high risk of adverse outcomes. And these children also can be considered. And we also need specific child-related safety data, which is not adequately provided yet. I know it's a good start. We have 525 children studied in Covaxin. Yes, it's good for a start, but we need bigger data before we roll this out for crores of our children. So to put this all in one sentence, no urgent need to vaccinate healthy children at this time. Prioritize children who are more likely to have complications.
So, Dr. Chand, would you agree? And yes, largely the way we took it even for adults, but that there is no reason to rush right now when it comes to children.
I only partly agree. I think if we are going to have 60, 70 lakhs of shots, as we are, if what I said earlier, if the recombinant vaccines are also available, I think 12 to 18 target the children will become a very important segment. Because if you didn't open the school, and if if the kids went unvaccinated, unprotected to school, and one school created just 10 infections, I think all parents will pull their children out. I personally don't think you can delay immunizing children for a very long time. Yes, there will be a problem. Which vaccine, where will they come from? We know that the Moderna and Pfizer are being rolled out. They will go even below 12 now. I think from 5 to 12 will be rolled out very soon. But in India, I think next step by December, I think we should plan to vaccinate children. This is my personal view. From 18 to 12 segment is a very important segment. We just haven't an idea what unfathomable damage we are doing or we have done. Now, the COVID has done, not we have. COVID has done to the kids who are stuck in their houses. In fact, you will not even find measure of what damage is being done to children stuck in their homes and not going to the schools. So to me, that segment will become extremely important going beyond November, December.
Yes,
we need to find vaccine for children.
Yes, because I think, no matter what we tell the parents, they most of them would want to wait, until their child is maybe vaccinated before they start sending them regularly. And that's to say that it's not as if the children are not stepping out today. But I think somewhere parents believe that when the child is out interacting with people under their supervision, it's one thing, but to send them away for 6 hours and 8 hours where they don't know who's supervising, that's the big scare that they have. And we've had multiple instances where, few cases being reported in the school have led to massive confusion, chaos and anxiety, which most parents don't want to get into. So let's wait and watch. Maybe they're completely out of time. As always, it's been a pleasure to have all of you joining me on this conversation. Thank you so much for your time. So there it is, viewers. We've reached a big landmark. To give 100 crore doses is something most countries in this world won't even be able to imagine. And our country has managed to do so. Of course, we also have the experience of large-scale mass vaccination programs, though mostly for children. This one was for adults. But we still have a long way to go, and which is why we need to keep up. The medical fraternity needs to keep up, needs to keep going, and we need to do what we can to support them in this endeavor of theirs. And the only way we can do that actually is to mask up. So don't forget to stay masked up, even if you're double vaccinated, even if at some point in the past you've had COVID infection. Keep that in mind.